Maximum alert on the Eastern Front. Subscribe if you believe Ukraine acted with the courage and determination needed to halt the advance of that lethal Russian armored column. Today we witnessed surgical ambushes, HIMARS missiles devastating enemy transports, and kamikaze drones that, with controlled fury, annihilated every vehicle that dared to challenge Ukrainian trenches. Was it legitimate heroism or an excess of force? Leave us your opinion in the comments and get ready for a journey into the very heart of modern war, where every shot defines the fate of nations. August 31, 2025. On the Pokrovsk front, two Russian armored vehicles approached dangerously close to Ukrainian trenches. The soldiers of the Pomster Brigade were waiting. Their ambush was ready. From their hidden positions, a multiple rocket launcher suddenly appeared, its tubes already aimed. The first salvo roared, lighting up the battlefield. Moments later, Ukrainian artillery joined in, unleashing a relentless storm of fire and steel. Shells rained down on the armored advance, tearing up chunks of earth, halting its progress, and leaving only burning wreckage behind. Reconnaissance drones detected a Russian 152mm Msta-S howitzer hidden deep in the forest. It had to be destroyed with precision. Exact coordinates were transmitted for a HIMARS missile strike. Moments later, the vehicle exploded into a massive fireball. Thick black smoke rose into the sky, engulfing the treetops in darkness. At dawn, Magwar birds teams spotted a group of Russian motorcycles approaching through the fog. They hadn't seen such an attack in weeks, and the sudden appearance of high-speed bikes caught them off guard for a moment. But the surprise didn't last. Drone operators were already in position. Without hesitation, they launched their machines. Individual bikes and sidecars advanced in waves, trying to break the line. Ukrainian operators adjusted their attacks with each pass, correcting aim and tracking every target. The hum of drones and the flicker of screens filled the room. They knew that if even one bike broke through, their lines would be in danger. One by one, the motorcycles fell, scattering debris across the field. The survivors swerved sharply and fled, leaving smoke and silence in their wake. For the Magwar birds, the battlefield was calm for now. A Russian BMP charged at full speed against Azov positions, spitting fire. Then a drone struck it squarely on the roof, and the roar ceased. Flames engulfed the vehicle as it stopped at the nearest corner, its crew trying to abandon the armored hull. Nearby, another Russian BMP and an MT-LB advanced to break the lines. But a Ukrainian armored vehicle from the same Azov unit was already pursuing them. Its cannon thundered, taking out the first with surgical precision. Ukrainian artillery joined in, pounding the area. Then the chase began. The second Russian armored vehicle now fled desperately under relentless fire. It didn't get far. Hit from both flanks, it stopped, wavered, and finally succumbed to a series of lethal impacts, reduced to flaming scrap metal. But the fight was far from over. Another Russian convoy appeared on the horizon, determined to breach Azov defenses. Whether they truly had the skill or courage to do so was another matter. Soon the area was blanketed by Ukrainian artillery fire. The flames of destroyed vehicles lit up the terrain, visible from afar. In the end, only 2 Russian pickup trucks remained standing, but their drivers abandoned them and fled on foot, leaving the vehicles in the dust. It was only a matter of time before Ukrainian forces finished the job, this time with thermite to ensure nothing remained intact. A Russian convoy of 17 vehicles was assembled on the outskirts of Bakhmut, ready to break through Ukrainian defensive lines. But Kiev's forces had already spotted their opportunity. As Russian crews regrouped, thinking the worst was over, the real strike came from the opposite flank. HIMARS rockets, launched from hidden positions behind defensive lines, came in from the far side of the road with deadly precision. On the other end of the convoy, Ukrainian FPV drones began their work, diving one after another into armored vehicles loaded with ammunition, turning them into sources of fire and shrapnel. Trapped in crossfire from above and the sides, the Russian soldiers had no chance. The formation dissolved into chaos, vehicles burning, smoke columns rising, and the convoy reduced to a row of twisted, charred wrecks. In the end, only blackened steel husks and scattered debris marked where the column once stood. August 25, 2025. Deep in the forest, in a classified border sector, Ukrainian Special Operations Forces moved stealthily among the trees. Somewhere ahead, Russian soldiers were hiding. The Ukrainians attacked without warning, unleashing deadly fire that shattered the silence of the woods. Most of the Russians in the area were neutralized, but one was luckier. They moved fast, seizing his radio before he could speak. They carried the prisoner to a small nearby shelter and treated his wounds. He remained silent as they patched him up. Then, suddenly, his radio came alive. Russian voices crackled over the speaker, calm and unsuspecting. The enemy still had no idea their 5 men in the forest were gone. September 2nd, 2025, Bakhmut. At the edge of the battlefield, a Ukrainian soldier lay wounded and alone, trapped in a deadly crossfire. The area was too dangerous for a conventional rescue, so ground rescue robots from the K2 battalion were sent. But another problem emerged. The soldier's arm and leg were badly injured, almost impossible for him to climb onto the robot himself. Yet, summoning all his strength and willpower, he managed to pull himself up. The robot carried him firmly out of danger and delivered him to an armored vehicle waiting nearby. From there, he was rushed to the hospital. September 3rd, 2025, Microsoft. Inside a stationary train car, a group of Russian soldiers thought they were safe, but Ukrainian reconnaissance drones were already overhead. The initial bombardment shook the wagon. After several strikes, the Russians panicked and rushed out, 6 of them. Then the real hunt began. 4 soldiers stuck together as they ran, becoming perfect targets. A Ukrainian kamikaze drone slipped between them and exploded in the middle of their formation. The first was killed instantly. The second barely dodged the blast and ran into a nearby cabin, thinking he was safe. He was wrong. Another drone slipped inside and finished him there. One after another, the rest fell. Third in open ground, then the fourth and fifth, each tracked and eliminated with cold precision. But the 6th was more cunning. When the drones found him, he had already thrown down his weapon and raised his hands in surrender. The operator activated the drone's strobe lights, guiding him to safety. At a secure point, Ukrainian troops awaited. They took him prisoner, loaded him into a Humvee, and left. A Russian convoy of 5 armored vehicles tried to slip between abandoned villages, hoping to surprise Ukrainian positions. The first response was quick, a hit on the personnel carrier. But it didn't stop and kept moving until a second strike forced it to halt, its soldiers rushing out. The convoy split into 2 groups. One was hammered by relentless drone attacks, while the other took artillery fire. It was a smart move by Ukrainian forces, dividing their firepower to overwhelm the enemy from multiple directions. Once the convoy's cohesion broke, each armored vehicle was exposed and became a priority target for Ukrainian artillery and drones. At medium and long range, the vehicles were struck by precision shells and explosive charges from unmanned aircraft, igniting fires that quickly consumed paint and melted metal parts. Many halted and remained stranded in the middle of the road, turned into smoking piles of twisted steel and burning debris. One armored vehicle, disoriented by flashes and blasts, swerved sharply in search of cover among the ruins of a nearby village. Its tracks clawed the dusty ground as it entered collapsed walls and fallen roofs. The crew rushed out, abandoning the half-burned vehicle, and ran into a ruined house for shelter. There, among rubble and cracked walls, they tried to remain unnoticed. Yet Ukrainian reconnaissance drones, equipped with multispectral cameras and auto-tracking systems, continued circling overhead. Even in the building's shadows, their thermal sensors detected the soldiers' body heat. Every movement was logged and relayed in real time to artillery units and sniper teams. What seemed like a safe hideout became another surveillance point, proving that even among ruins, reconnaissance technology maintained absolute control. Ukrainian operators made sure they had no second chance. First, they finished the abandoned armored vehicle with a direct drone strike, leaving it a smoking anvil. Then they focused on the cornered soldiers, still unaware how badly they had miscalculated. Finally, Ukrainian artillery took charge, using precise coordination between fire units and reconnaissance drones. Thanks to real-time imagery and instant coordinate sharing, every shot, whether from 155mm howitzers or 120mm mortars, was adjusted millimetrically to hit enemy positions without wasting ammunition. Building by building, the makeshift shelters and concrete fortresses the Russians had hastily thrown up were systematically leveled. First, an enveloping strike fracturing walls and roofs, then a second shot at key structural points to prevent reuse. As the sequence repeated, enemy defenses crumbled and the terrain was littered with smoldering rubble. When the smoke finally cleared, only twisted husks of charred vehicles and mounds of brick dust remained, silent traces of yet another tactical failure for the attackers. A lone Russian soldier was seen fleeing a freshly demolished building, still smoking from artillery impact. He was lucky to escape alive, but Ukrainian drone operators weren't about to let him get away. They deployed a drone to finish the job, striking the hut where he hid. The drone plunged down and detonated in a fiery blast, lighting up the surroundings with an orange glow and sending a shock wave of wind and fire. Yet the soldier emerged unscathed, his clothes singed but his body intact. Instead of surrendering, he crawled behind a nearby fuel truck, using its shadow and steel as makeshift cover. But drone operators, equipped with thermal and high-resolution systems, didn't relent. They deployed a second drone that flew low and dropped its explosive with surgical accuracy, then a third, and a fourth in rapid succession. That man seemed to defy odds, as if he had 9 lives. Finally, one last drone hovered directly above his position and released its charge, completing the mission and confirming the lethal effectiveness of modern drone warfare. 2 armored personnel carriers moved cautiously toward Azov brigade lines. Both advanced slowly, using low hills and scattered trees as cover, while operators constantly checked thermal sensor readings. Suddenly from above, a reconnaissance drone turned weapon changed the course of the maneuver. It slammed into the rear vehicle's roof, causing an eruption of flames that lit up the ground and cloaked the area in thick black smoke. Without delay, the brigade activated immediate response protocols. A second drone, this time a remotely guided missile-launching unmanned vehicle, targeted the lead vehicle, striking the narrow frontal arc of its protective hull. The blast echoed in the air, forcing the crew to evacuate immediately. Soldiers leapt from hatches, diving to the ground for cover as automatic extinguishers fought the flames. The rear vehicle, though badly damaged and navigation compromised, managed to crawl a few more meters forward, but it was left exposed to further aerial and light artillery attacks. Its side defenses no longer offered protection, and the crew, aware of the vulnerability, sought cover in nearby brush. That brief but decisive exchange confirmed the effectiveness of drone warfare and marked a turning point in both sides' tactics. The lead vehicle burned in place, thick black smoke rising skyward. The survivor became easy prey for more drones. Then, with a roar, a Ukrainian tank arrived. Unwilling to leave the job half done, it opened fire, tearing apart the already battered armored vehicle. But even before the final strike, the Russian soldiers who had jumped out remained hidden, clinging to shelter in a nearby house. One by one, the ruined homes erupted in fireballs. Each blast sent debris flying, reducing what little cover remained to dust and flames. The day started quickly for Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade's anti-air and artillery battalion. The Strela 10 air defense system deployed rapidly and lined up. Alerts warned of an imminent Russian airstrike. The Strela 10 locked onto its target and fired, sending a clear message to Russian pilots. Don't fly in my sky. But the night brought no rest. Ukrainian airspace remained under watch even in darkness. A portable man-pads defense system shot down a Russian reconnaissance drone. Its remains were carefully collected, with key parts sent to the Ministry of Defense for structural analysis and intelligence. To stay one step ahead, Ukrainian forces now rely on next-generation radars to detect enemy drones before they arrive. Once identified, their own drones take off and counterattack, reclaiming the skies, enemy machine by enemy machine. Do you believe this Ukrainian response was the only way to stop the Russian push, or do you think Kiev's forces crossed a line by adding massive firepower and lethal technology? Subscribe if you think it was an act of legitimate defense, and leave your view in the comments if you believe this opens the door to an even more dangerous escalation. Turn on the bell so you don't miss our next report on how the duel between drones, artillery, and cyber attacks is shaping the global balance of power.